Hey everyone, how's it going? Hey Paul, hey Aaron.
Hey,
So,
Matt.
Hey Matt.
how's it going? Lots of changes. I know we skipped out on last week. It was Australia Day public holiday, but as we kind of get through the news, maybe in the first 5 minutes, as people kind of trickle in and join as well. I guess what's new in your world, Paul? The location doesn't look like your shed at the moment.
Yeah, well, I think I mentioned like last time that I'm moving places,
Hmm.
and I'm still working out like my kids is going to a different school, so I'm going between different places. So at the moment, I'm back at my old place. So I'm
Yep.
I'm I'm actually in my study at the moment. You can see that's my front yard there. At least it's nice and green.
Hmm.
I've been working on setting up a proper shed that we can work out next time. Most of my tools and equipment has been set there, but I'm still working through the logistics of setting up internet and running Ethernet out there. But
Yep.
that's coming along. So yeah, at some point it'll be back in the shed, and then at some point in the future I'll introduce the actual cabin that I've got there as well. So I've got an actual log cabin there. But in other
Nice.
news, we've got an extra person in today with an extra special fancy T-shirt. So, Aaron, say hello to everybody and show us your T-shirt and tell us about that.
This was the re-emergence. This was a SA offsite day. Yeah, I didn't even realize what shirt I had on. Yeah, just one of our many SA shirts that we get when we attend offsites and workshops.
Yeah,
Nice.
awesome.
And I know Aaron, you've been on the show quite a few times. You've done Amazon location for us last year. You've done a number of different episodes.
Yeah,
Stepped in
But
for me once, I think, and maybe you even.
yeah,
co-host, guest co-host for when supporting Paul. Yeah.
yeah. So one of the changes that we do want to make to Devs in the Shed this year is we kind of want to like have a bit more of a hype for like what's going to happen each episode. So we're going to post a little video on our YouTube essentially. Just letting everyone know what the next episode's about. So we're going to invest extra time in that. We want to have additional speakers, additional content, kind of like take the show to the next level. And so that's why Aaron is actually joining us as the third dev in the sheds. So congratulations, Aaron.
Thanks,
Um,
guys.
I'm sure the audience will be excited about that. I know a lot of people are still trickling in as well as I watch the numbers.
I will
Um,
be moving back into my shed as I was on the location service episode. It's just the Wi-Fi at the moment is has cut me off, so I'm in the home office.
I mean, it's
yes,
2021 and we've got like Wi-Fi still is no good, right?
It's
Like at the end of the day, like
2022.
yeah, it's 2022 actually.
You're
2022, like
lost in last year.
Yeah,
give
exactly.
in 2022, like still give me a cable, like like let's run a big cable through my backyard.
That's
Actually, for my new place, I was just telling Matt and Aaron that I've got a Ethernet over power device, and it seems to be working really well at that place. But
Hmm.
nothing really beats like a proper Ethernet cable.
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna do is probably run a big Cat 6 out to the shed.
Yeah,
Nice.
awesome.
Well, I mean, so it's not just yourself that's joining us on the show, right? We've gone from two devs in a lot of sheds to Paul moving house as well. You've brung additional sheddage, is my understanding, for the show as well. So it's three devs, but how many sheds? I've got a cabin and I've got a shed, so I'll count that as two. Paul?
Well, I would say I got a workshop, I got a shed, and I got a cabin. I think I'll count that as three. I don't know
Yep.
how long it'll be before like we can visit each one, and I can show off those. But I can definitely show off one next time. So we're at five. How about you, Aaron?
I've just got the one big workshop. The carport out the front doesn't count, but a big workshop out the back.
Yeah, nice. So keep in mind that number because we may have a giveaway for people who are paying attention to how many sheds combined that are available. So yeah, but let's like say hello to our audience. So we've got GecDev in at the moment and iTech Code, and Yanabe here, like saying hello to us. Where is everybody from, and how has your like 2022 kicked off? And what interesting things have you been working on?
And Zemo's there as well. I see Yanabe is interested in borrowing one of the sheds. I do think we've got way too many. I don't know how that happened. Maybe that influenced the name of the show originally. Oh, Cairo, awesome. That's I've actually gone. I spent a month in Cairo when I was 15. It was amazing. I went to the pyramids. I went down the Nile. I did all the touristy things. I got ripped off through a scam where a camel took me to the back of the pyramids, and then I had to pay like triple the amount of money to get all the way back to the side of the pyramids where the bus was. So that was always fun. Zemo, yeah. Well, I guess that's kind of like it for the big news, right? So we're really excited to have Aaron on board the show, and Aaron's actually got something set up for next week, like around Amplify Studio, if I remember correctly, as well. So that'll be next week's topic. I know Paul and myself have talked about doing something on AWS Personalize, Amazon Personalize. I'll get my services right. Amazon Personalize over the last, how long? Like I think since October, we built some content that we wanted to share with everyone, and I think it's about high time that we take everyone through what we've done with Personalize as one of the pet projects that we had from last year. Paul, did you want to kind of quickly speak about, like, give everyone an overview on that?
Yeah, so look, I've worked in a number of different areas. Predominantly at the moment, within my role at Amazon, is I'm working with a whole bunch of retail customers, and retail customers is, I guess, when you think about buying online, is where you immediately start to think about personalization. And when you think about personalization, most people think about like recommendations engines, and those are important. Like they make sense. And when we're shopping online and we're looking to I don't know, buy a hammer or something, I might want a recommendation to, like, buy some nails, or Sally's no gaps or something, no nails or something like that comes alongside that. And I'm sure we've all dealt with it, that you've bought like some cat food, and then something else really weird comes up that doesn't actually quite relate, like a horse saddle or something. So personalization is it's come a lot further than just recommendation. So it's not what just somebody bought before. It's not just directly related to, like, if you bought a cat bell, do you want cat food as well? Like, that's important, but it might be more holistic around your journey of what you're wanting to do. In the past, I worked in like online wagering for one of the online wagering organizations within Australia, and it was really interesting going through a process of like what it means for people to come along and interact and work on, work, play, interact with your web application. And, at the end of the day, you want your customers to spend money on your platform, and what it means for like a truly personalized experience. So if you were going and you were visiting a site, and let's say that site is specifically around sports, and if that sport that you're predominantly interested in is like, ball sports, so that'd be like, football, American football, soccer, NFL, NRL, those type of sports. If you're getting recommendations to say, like, here's some like really interesting horse racing, and that keeps coming up on your screen, and it's saying that, oh, someone bought an item that was to do with horses, you're like, it's not quite relevant to me. When you're coming to that application and that site, and you think about what is that you want to see, like over time, you'd like to see and feel that the website is really understanding who you are. So I don't want to see like horses. I don't want to see like BMX riding, or I don't want to see like esports. I want to see specific ball sports. That's what I want to do. Move those things out of the way and let me really enjoy the experience that I have there. And that's where I started to really see what like Personalize can do. And the industry was like, I guess like you would say, like relatively immature when I was in that space at that time. We knew, and we were working with the marketing team and the team that was coordinating that. That's what we wanted to do, and that's where we wanted to get to. But to like actually write and build the code to understand how people are working was a lot of like batch operations, slow processes, wasn't happening real time. The best and the closest you were getting was when they would do like an email marketing campaign, and somebody would do a whole bunch of data operations to try and filter out what somebody had done and say, we'll market to the people in Queensland, and make sure that the marketing emails to them has the Queensland teams on top and the Melbourne teams on the bottom, so something like that. A slight degree of personalization, but not exactly what we expect to happen, and definitely not in real time. So of course, we're talking about the AWS Personalize product. I've got a couple of slides, and I know we normally don't usually use slides, but I thought I'd introduce like this concept and this subject back to the audience that may or may not have seen it before we go ahead and dive into some code in the application that's Matt built and show like how that can work in the real world. So what I'll do is I will share that.
Yeah, as you're doing that, Paul, as well, like I do see that we've got a biomedical engineer and data scientist working on AI, so that's pretty exciting. Check out the last show that we did on SageMaker. I will get a link to the YouTube, and I'll paste that in probably about 2 minutes. But we've got a couple of more sessions planned this year on machine learning and AI. So hopefully those are of interest for you. It's a very hot subject. And I tech codes. I could be getting it completely wrong. Apologies. Learning to code from Mexico is pretty cool. I was going to say though, like as Paul was kind of talking about, I want to see the things that are relevant to me. It kind of makes me a little bit sad with the state of the web currently. I feel, I go to a website, and this was this morning, and I get this pop-up banner of like save 10% off my first order. Like right in my face as I was typing. And then like I exit out of that, and then I've got this cookies banner that's gotten in the way again. And so I just want to use the site, and I want to find what's interesting to me, right? And so that's kind of where I think Paul and my head was at when we started to explore using Personalize to drive, sections of the website to come to you. So it's not just like a recommendation on a product and seeing a little widget of a product on the screen. It's kind of like, if you've got these things and you're similar to other people who've got those things, and I've got like 1 or 2 extra things that you don't have, it's probably relevant for you to be interested or actually maybe even have some of that stuff as well. So you can actually surface, articles, surface things from a website. So you can actually like make a help portal to try and give customers like things that they need straight away when they log in. And if it's not there for them, you can still do all the normal searching and this and that. But it just makes that experience so much more slick to be able to go in and like, there's what I want. That's what I want. That's what I'm after. Like I'm trying to work out how to turn on roaming on my phone so I can do some travel. Like, I think everyone kind of has had similar situations where, something's not worked on their phone, or, they're trying to transfer money on the bank, like internationally, or, you're just doing something on the site and it takes you like half an hour to find the article that actually tells you how to do the thing. So I'm popping your screen up, Paul.
Yep.
I've got the wrong view, by the way.
What do you see?
I see everything. So your whole PowerPoint. Let me remove it.
Are you, just to clarify, Matt, are you talking more like UI personalization? So what you actually see in your UI, as opposed to like a suggestions panel that everyone has, and it's just the suggestions inside the panel that change?
Yeah, I'm talking about like, like the same thing that like chatbots try and do. Like you ask a question, you get relevant information. Like I want to kind of get in before the question that if the website or the brand knows enough about you to be able to suggest pages that are going to be helpful to you. Not trying to sell you things, like the internet's always trying to sell you things, but rather like, coming from that support, experience where it's just like, these are things that might be helpful.
Talking of internet's trying to sell you things, but from the backwards, backfiring point of view, I recently bought a book, and from that recommendations point of view, it was a second edition. After I made the purchase, the recommendation was, hey, you might like the first edition of this same book. So bit of a backwards fail.
Yeah. Just check now, Matt. Is my screen sharing correctly?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. All right. It's the best I can do, like at the moment. But like when we talk about like personalization, it's not something that just like Matt and I feel that is important. It's not something that just my retail customers feel is important. Based on statistics that have been like formal statistics that have been gathered by market leaders, what we've seen that like 63% of customers expect some type of personalization. So there's an expectation out there. Like, it's exactly like, 15 years ago, we were developing software. We didn't expect our applications to be slick. We didn't expect them to work on a phone. We just expected them to work. Now, like, we're seeing much more interaction. People expect this to happen. and they want it out of the box. A couple of really good examples to introduce is, your streaming services, Netflix, Amazon Prime. Like, I have both of those services there, and I have like many of the online food ordering platforms. But when I'm watching Netflix, I actually really like it when it will suggest me some sort of TV series or something to watch next. What I don't like is the ability to say, like, I'd love to be able to say, I don't want that movie. Don't ever recommend me anything like that again. If anyone from the Prime team is listening, like, take that into consideration. If I say if I don't want to watch it, don't ever show me that again. Like, I don't want it to see it come up. Really annoys me. But yeah, like I was saying, like, it's an expectation in the morning. At the moment, the current landscape expects some degree of personalization with almost any piece of interaction that we're doing on the web, or on device for that matter. Amazon has been, pioneering and evolving personalization for 20 years. If you roll back and we look at the very top here, the first piece of those recommendations come from when we're selling books online, right? Like, do you like this book? Or somebody recently just bought this book. But at the time, a lot of that was fairly mature. That was done as batch processing. We didn't have the real-time models, but it does show that we've got 20 years of experience building and working on top of this. Now we're seeing all of this come together with Prime Video, with Amazon Prime, with the actual website, on Amazon.com when you're buying things. We're even seeing starting to see some personalization, the ability to customize your AWS console. And I think that that's great. Being able to pin the services and come directly to the services that I'm going to use all the time in the console, rather than a bunch of services that, I'm not often using. And same with the Alexa devices as well. In comes Amazon Personalize. This is a fully managed service. So, I know Matt has talked about, that our last session we had Paul Colmer on, we were talking about building models in SageMaker, building models and custom models within SageMaker. This is really great. You can use some of our custom models that are already pre-built and leverage on top of those. You can go ahead and build and train your own models. But having a fully managed service means that you don't have to set up specific EC2 instances. You don't need to set up any of the scaling around that. You don't need to set up SageMaker or understand SageMaker. What you can do is leverage this service and this platform, provide it a bunch of data, and then let it go ahead and do what it needs to do to sort out and do it best it can with personalizing and making recommendations on the data that you're providing. Personalize provides a real-time API, so you can interact with this in actual real time. And it has specific steps involved that allow you to deploy and change and modify those recommendations model. And what we'll see later is when Matt shows, our all favorite Python scripts. So we built, he's built a Flask application. It's pretty easy to integrate using Personalize. So this is an API-driven application. You can integrate it within real time. You can use that on the front end and interact directly through your front end application, whether it be React or Angular or anything else on the front end. But you can also do that on the back end too. So if you've got a server-side rendered application, a .NET MVC application or a Flask app, you can go ahead and use your back-end services that in real time are making those requests into Personalize and pulling down the relevant information to show how that looks. So this is just a little bit of an overview of how it works. So Personalize will take into consideration user events and interactions. That could be views, signups, conversions, depending on how you configure the platform. It'll take into consideration and look at the item metadata. So whether that be a movie, a specific food, or trips that you're organizing on some sort of trip organizing platform, gather the details, information, the metadata around what is happening there. But it'll also take into consideration your user metadata, so your age, your location, etc. And if we go back to that example that Matt said earlier, if you're on your banking site and you wanted to enable or unblock specific purchases that have occurred because you're traveling and you forgot to tell your bank that you're going to be traveling in, let's say, the US, so they flag some of those transactions to put a hold on your card, that's probably the information you're going to look at. So if we think about what user metadata might be, that might be something like, I've now logged in from a location in the US. I've logged in and I've authenticated using 2FA authentication. The application or your online banking knows that it's you, that you've authenticated in the US. It knows then, based on some back-end item metadata, that you've made a couple of transactions in the US, So maybe your help is automatically saying, maybe this person is in another country and maybe they want help on how to put through an unblock, the unblock information back to that customer so they can get their card up and running and continue to enjoy their holiday. So again, like what we'll see in, if we're using like machine learning or SageMaker or Deep Racer, we see, the ability to like identify features, select hyperparameters, train models, optimize models, host them, and build a real-time feature store. Amazon like wraps this up and packages it up and then just provides you with an API that you can interact with in real time. So at the this is the last slide that I'll go into. So behind the scenes, this is a little bit of what is happening here. There is like a whole bunch of information that is being fed in. That might be like a bulk set of data that you might load, and that might be your products catalog that you're passing in, a whole bunch of information about, I don't know, if it was a pet store, like a whole bunch of like information about the items that are being sold at the pet store, what they relate to, what animals they're specific for, what specific regions in Australia like are suited to what sort of specific animals, who knows what that might be. And so Personalize can go through and look at like bulk, batches of data. It'll start identifying features in there. You can work through and select your algorithms that you're going to use, and you can tweak those algorithms to a degree and change some of the hyperparameters that are being passed in there. It will go off and it will continue to train and learn on what you're doing. Because it's a fully managed service, we'll continue to see like upgrades and modifications and improvements to the Personalized service without you having to go ahead and like rebuild or reconfigure your applications or reinstall TensorFlow and configure everything up and have these like lengthy wait periods where you're going ahead and like training models for weeks on end within huge instances and a lot of complexity around that. It's something that you can do like you can automate all this, but you could go ahead in the console and get started today by just clicking through a few areas, providing some like big CSVs and building that up. It also has a feature store, and it can create like a real-time cache. So when you are like looking to do these predictions, obviously like every time you're doing a lookup to say like someone bought bird feed or something, for example, what does that mean? Is it like intensive at the back end? Is it taking a long time to provide that prediction? So, it has the ability to provide like a cache so that you can get that data back as fast as possible. And like I said earlier, like this is all available within an API. So your web application and everything that we used to as developers interact with, it's available and exposed as an API. So that's really like the technical back-end bits or the boring slide bits. Maybe we'll go take off my screen share and we'll go back to Matt, and Matt will show like a little application that we put together to show how this Personalized could be used within the financial services industry.
Yeah, and I think for the people that were watching before when we did kind of like announce the news of Aaron joining, you've got a bit of a prize. Did you want to make that call now? And I'll just get my screen share up at the same time.
Yeah, I think we have. So for some of the people at the start, maybe we'll give it one more chance, right? Yeah. A little bit of a clue. So the winner of the prize is the first person that gives the total amount of combined sheddage between the three of us. I've got.
Is it free devs one shed? I'm the only one in the shed. Is it free devs free sheds?
It is today.
It is today. So it's like 2 devs not in a shed. I've got a workshop. I've got an actual shed that I can do like computer work and so forth in. And I have a log cabin. I'll count that as 3. Aaron?
I've got my workshop shed combined out the back. So that's 1.
Matt?
And I've got a shed and a cabin, so count me as 2.
So first person that gets in with the total amount of sheddage between us would be up for a prize. They can contact us offline and we'll send something out. Send some swag out.
Ooh, swag. Liquid Surya. Here we go, very fast.
He was fast and he is correct. So Liquid Surya, reach out to Matt, Aaron, or I over LinkedIn. We'll provide those contact details later, and we'll get that shipped off to you.
Yeah, Paul, did you want to stick in your LinkedIn details in the channel? And my screen share should be popping up.
Should we change the name of the program to 3 devs in 6 sheds?
I would. We might have to. Yeah, like the other thing is, I'm pretty sure like Paul still has his original house, right? So it could be.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
could be
it
more
could be like
sheds.
6 devs, 500 sheds. Who knows?
Yeah, well, I mean, like when we moved, Matt and also he hit a sixer. So Liquid Sura must be like a cricket fan, I suspect. Matt and Aaron helped me move graciously, and actually we lifted one of the sheds up. We carried it all the way through my backyard, and we shoved it in the back of the truck. So we moved the shed. So that worked well. Liquid Sura, hit me up on LinkedIn, and we'll get that shipped off to you. Over to you, Matt.
Yeah, so don't judge my web design. This was just made as a proof of concept to prove an idea. So both the code and the web design is not pretty, but it gets the point across. So this is the site that we put together. I've got a very simple mocked login page. So what I want to do here is I basically want to log in a user. I'm going to auto-populate that user and the products that they have as soon as they log in. So I'm just going to create that on the fly. And so that way I've kind of got a list of things for this particular user, right? So this user has a mortgage. The company's probably a bank. This person has, a savings account. This person has a credit card saver. And there's a couple of quick links that lead to different sections with more on products that have been kind of like predicted for this end user. So I'm assuming that because they have the product of credit card savers, that's why they're seeing the support credit card saver product here. You can see there's a credit card platinum. So maybe what's happened is that there's people with multiple saver and platinum credit cards. And so at the moment, it's kind of guessed that this is probably related in some way to this end user. So this is all predicted by Personalize in the back end. And you can see the other predictions that it's made there. Now, it's not just products that's going to be of interest. It's going to be like what the user navigates and searches for. So if I actually go to the products page and I have a look at mortgage variable, I've got some nice lorem ipsum that tells me about the product. I could look at a personal loan calculator. I could go to insurance. I could go back to the calculator. I could go to a support page and I can go, I need help on that loan insurance. And I want to have more help on the credit card saver. In fact, I might go to that page multiple times. You can see the auto-generating lorem ipsum's awesome there. Now, if I go back to the home screen, you can see that there are different recommendations that have been made. And so it's built a bigger data pool around myself. We haven't really optimized, much about that data pool. But you can see it's actually making different predictions as to what it was before, because I've done a whole bunch of different things and recorded it and pushed it to the back end. If I log in as a different user again, so, like I just go log in as just some random other user and type a password,
Matt,
I will see.
What method of authentication did you use for this?
It's called Matt's authentication, and it's basically mocked authentication. So on this page, effectively all that I'm doing is I'm capturing the username and leading to a landing zone, and then I'm kind of like auto-populating off of that username like a bunch of different records. So there's actually no real auth in here at all. It was just for a proof of concept. And what at the end of the day, what I just wanted was a bunch of different users, right?
So you're not auth. There's no auth to the API for the Personalize?
Zero auth to the API for Personalize at the moment. So it's using unauthenticated auth. I could tie incognito if I wanted to build this out more. But the idea was I wanted to show a whole bunch of different recommendations for a whole bunch of different users. And being myself, I was just too lazy to set up Cognito and then have to create 6 different users and remember the username and password.
Though the application itself recognizes that somebody's different's logged in, it just accepts anything as a password.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Okay. Yep. So what does this look from a code point of view? Like how am I kind of building up this database? For like the first question is like all those things that I was doing beforehand. Each time I logged in, you'd see I'd get a username, I'd get a session. I would get a list of user products generated as well by the application, so you can actually see what this looks like in the terminal because I'm just printing them out. So, and then it passes it to Personalize, and then you can see like user recommendation 1, 2, 3, and you can also see the accuracy of these recommendations is quite poor because the system was only just stood up, right, and it hasn't been optimized.
Were those recommendations for the second user also based on the previous user? So is it doing a comparison of users?
Yeah, so that brings me to a good point because I'm really lazy. Like let's use that angle again. What I've done is I've used Faker, which is a library to generate user data. So I've used Faker to basically generate based on a bunch of products and brochure advertising pages and support pages. What I've done is I've gotten a seed script that basically creates like 500 or however many users I say. So it gives me a username. It gives them free products that are going to be linked to them, and it outputs all of this stuff as basically a CSV. And so when I have that CSV, instead of having to create 500 users incognito, it wasn't shared. Instead of creating 500 users incognito, I can just basically insert a CSV and say, these are my existing 500 users. And actually, as I was using the web app, like that's user 501, 502. So, those new users that I'm creating is basically getting added to the model as well. So the whole point of the experiment was not around user authentication, but it was about building a pool of users and products so that I could have a data set to make predictions out of at the end of the day. Now, if I want to generate those records, it looks like I'm generating 10,000 actually. All that I need to do is, Python free in my terminal, and I run the seed script. So when that happens, we'll take a little bit to think about it, but it has created the CSV file. And so you can see a username that it's created using Faker, a product, and what is that last value that it's passing? Let me just check the script because it has been a while since it's a timestamp. Yeah, so actually that's a good point because I didn't want all the users to have the same timestamp. So I think I basically had a randomized timestamp for some time this month. So I used Faker to do that again, actually. Faker was really good for this project because you can see I've got 10,000 records of fake user data that I can use to then train Personalize without actually having to create all those users incognito and have them log in and have products generated for them. So it was a whole bunch of really cool automation. I might stop there.
Libraries like that are really handy, especially if you want to test something to do with users and you want to create like lots of users, but have them to be random without having like silly names. So now you can have like proper and correct names. There's a lot of properness around it, like proper date of births, and let it generate random date of births.
Proper addresses,
proper addresses. A lot of proper sort of data rather than. I mean, I'm sure we've all seen it, like test 1, test 2. Addresses like 123 AAA Street. So like having proper data in there makes it a lot easier to test when you're like running through testing your application. So it's not just useful for like faking up information for this, but writing test scripts for your application as well.
So are you using this dummy data? So you've just highlighted support personal loan insurance. That's the product that this dummy data user
Brandy Howard has. Yep.
Yeah. So are you using that product as the comparison point for other users to say, all right, well, these other 100 users also selected that product. And then what are because I remember you were showing, you click multiple times and that changes your quick links. So based on other people who have also ordered that product, you're going and looking at, they've clicked on this 10,000 times or 100 times or whatever. So that's more likely to be relevant. Is that how it works?
Yeah, that's exactly how it works. Although looking at this, it looks like I might actually have a bug if anyone's recognized what the issue is. I should be using the same user for 2 or 3 products each. And that way I've got a better comparison of like this user was interested in that product as well. But it looks like this variation of the script that I've run, it's actually doing one user to each product. And so I'm pretty sure if I search for Justin Todd, oh no, it's still working. It's just inserted in a random order. So you can see Justin Todd has a brochure, mortgage calculator, product personal loan. Justin has a mortgage insurance as well, and so a support mortgage fixed as well. So you can see it's using Justin multiple times, and then that way he's got a range of things that he's interested in. Just like the user that's logged into the site that I showed before will have a range of things that they're interested in. And then that's how I do a nice comparison. Now, it's not going to be as smart as what I'd like to see in reality, right? Because these aren't real users. These aren't real products that they're using. But like if you were actually working within a company, like you'll probably have a customer data set within your data warehouse of information like this. That actually mirrors like what products people will have. That you can run Personalize over for, and it's going to be a lot more accurate for you, right? And there's going to be a lot more depth to that data than 10,000 fake records as well.
Matt, there's a question from Liquid. Is this code shared on GitHub? Like, I know at the moment you and I have access to it. Are there any plans to sort of open it up?
I don't think I don't think the code has been shared, but there's no reason why it couldn't be. And the README is up to date so that anyone can pick this up and then deploy in their own account and set up Personalize end to end. Oh, actually, give me 2 seconds, guys. I've just got an urgent delivery. Yeah, that's right. I'll catch you guys in a sec.
Yeah, so like Liquid, just for people that are there, we do have a GitHub repository with most of our code that we've used in for demos on the show. I'll bring that up now. And so this is the repo. We've put that on GitHub and made what we have ready yet available publicly. So I guess like Matt will probably move his code, like it's a different repo that we were using as we built this proof of concept out like way back in November. We'll move that across into that public repo and we'll share that as well. To see like Twitch will let us watch the videos in the past, but we also have a YouTube channel. So for anybody that is not yet subscribed, we'd love you to go ahead and subscribe to our YouTube channel. So I'll paste that in the chat there. The YouTube channel will enable us to like add updates and add comments onto the video as we make changes and push those things out. So we'll put, once this goes onto YouTube, as all the archive videos do, we'll update that with some links and some commentary about where the code is and the links and how to go and get it and some other information that you might want to be able to. It also gives you a place that you can interact and ask questions back to us. And we'll follow that up and we'll continue to help you guys with that. So Matt got his package. Back to you.
Yeah, it was super important. I don't know how many people in the audience play video games, but I love my video games, and I was preparing with a very important part of the system that I need to be able to play Horizon, the second one when it comes out in a couple of weeks. So Forbidden West. I know Aaron's really excited about that game in particular as well.
So did you do have to upgrade your PC?
No, it's only on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, but you literally cannot buy a PlayStation 5 anywhere. And PlayStation 4s are even sold out, and the wife wants to play it with me, and so I had to get a console so that I was in a state where I could play it, because usually I've got Xbox and PC. So and I played Horizon originally on the PlayStation, on an old PlayStation, and I played it on PC again. But I'm really excited to play it and not have to wait a couple of years for it to come out on PC. So yeah, apologies. I was just video game geeking and I had to sign for the order. So yeah, done. So yeah, there's no reason why the code can't be shared. So I'll kind of open up the GitHub after this and we'll put in that video. I'm pretty sure that's what Paul was probably saying when I ran out. Is that right?
Pretty much. I said that we'll move that across into the shared repo, and we'll add the links onto the archive in YouTube.
Just
Yep.
a question on your data. Sorry, I keep coming back to this.
Yeah.
So are you able to set, so now we know we've got multiple occurrences of Justin Todd. Are you, and then, you know, we can see all the products that he's getting. Are you doing the comparison from the front end side, so your application side, or are you basically just saying this is Justin Todd and it's the actual personalized that's going through and looking at these are all the products? It does a count on, you know, he's got this product and 50,000 other people use this product and these are the quick links that they have. You know, like, where is the division between what you're doing in the front end and what the actual API is doing?
Yeah, so the front end's actually like pretty dumb, right? For a front end. So, you know, like I've got my login page that goes into the home page, and you can see like I've got these products that the user has within his page, and then or her page, and then I've got some quick links to the suggestions or the recommendations that are coming back through the Amazon Personalize API. So if like this is a Flask-based app, so you know this is just boilerplate HTML, and the actual logic, and don't judge me on the code here. The actual logic's going to come through here in particular, right? So I've got this array of user items, and then these quick links that I'm passing back into the HTML pages are the recommendations that come back from the recommendations engine. I've got this make recommendation like function basically, and it's been a while since I've looked through this, so we're going to have to kind of like learn it together, but that goes into my utilities folder where I have a recommendations.py script, and literally what I'm doing is I've got Bodo free and the AWS CLI locally on my machine. I am talking to the Personalize events service. I'm feeding a tracking ID that I have in user configuration that's not even actually in this project. So if you wanted to deploy this application yourself, you just create a .m file. I've got it all in my README, so you'll be able to see it in the code. And then basically, like when you set up Personalize, you'll get a tracking ID back. But I've actually used Secrets Manager or something to store that on the AWS side, so that detail's not even locally on my machine. I have given the user ID that I've generated randomly, so I've actually just hit up Faker to get a user ID back. I've just created a dummy session ID as well, which is just like a random ID of like 8 characters or something like that. And so I send the personalized ID for AWS through. I send my user ID. I send the session ID. That user ID already had in another script that I've got when it initiates the user. So it's created that user there with Faker. It's actually parameter store that I'm using here looking at it. And all that it's done is it's sent a list of products for that user off to Personalize. So you can see it's talking to the tracking ID, the campaign ID again. And then it's just basically sending through like, these are the potential products that the user can have. And then it's just sending the products through to Personalize. So it's sending the user config and an item, which is one of these products through. And it kind of does that 3 times. So it kind of iterates through that 3 times. And so that's how the user ends up having 3 products. Those products are all sent into Personalize within AWS. And, you know, when it comes to the recommendation side of the equation, it knows the products, it knows the user on the Personalize side or in Personalize through the API. And what it's doing is it's basically, it's sending me through what it thinks that like I might be interested in that's in relation to those items. So it's sending me a recommendation back, and it's doing that 6 times, and it's also sending through the accuracy. So just to see this.
You're sending the event as well. So when you click on the link to the other page, you're sending that as an event, and it's actually the Personalized that's saying, because you've got this product and you've clicked on this page that relates to that product, that's more likely to be the top of your list than a different one in your quick links. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. So as I navigate the site, I'm also sending like the site data, right? So that kind of brings me to another point that, you know, if I go to any of these products pages, it's sending me it's sending Personalize like what those products pages are that I've navigated to as well. And this is fairly messy, like repetitive code, but it was for a POC that we built in half a day to kind of show the experience, right? So it's sending on each of the routes.
That to me, that's the awesome bit, right? Because having had to develop many solutions like this without Personalize, there's a lot of statistical analysis done. So like based on page hits here, or clicks over there, or whatever you've done, then you need to figure out, well, based on that, writing your own algorithm into your application to then figure out what's more likely to be, the quick link or the whatever. This is great. You just send it off. Every time they do it, allow Personalize to calculate it, and then receive your list of recommendations.
Yeah, and if you go back in your code, Matt, so maybe to the recommendations file, and have a look at where was it? Just like anything, I guess, in the recommendations file, response equals personalized.get recommendation, right? Like now we're seeing like that's how like you interact with the Personalize API. Like, sure, you could do that if you weren't using Boto in a different language. You could do that with native HTTP calls, but there's abstractions over the top of that. In this example, we're using Boto to be able to do that. But you see, like you're not making HTTP requests. You don't need to do anything really complicated. You just say, use the Boto library, use Personalize, get recommendation, pass in the requested data, and you're going to get back nice JSON data to loop over and work with.
So easy.
Yeah, and like let's navigate through. So in the background, I kind of, it's hard to share my whole monitor. So I'm just going to navigate through. I'm going to log into the site, and you can see here, right? Like if we look at the logs that are just generated right now from that. So Deborah Zimmerman, she logged in. She's got the session ID. She got 3 products assigned. So it's kind of iterating through the code that we showed beforehand. Like it will pick up 3 random products all within the user configs file when that user's kind of like initiated and created. So, like that print statement's what we saw at the very top. So like that's this here, right? And then basically like we've got the 4 rows. So print the current user products, and you can see that Personalize, like we've basically just had, 3 of these chosen within our manual kind of dictionary or array or whatever it is that we've got here. And then we land on the page, which is the home screen. And in the home screen, like we've got our user items being shown again, but we're pulling those quick links where it's going to make a recommendation again. So it's now talking to that recommendation file. And what it's doing is it's basically just asking Personalize, hey, I've got this user with this ID. What's going to be relevant for them? And how accurate do you think that response is? And so it gives that item a score as well. So if the score was too low, I could even hide the information from being shown to the user, right? I might not even show them the top 5 records, just the top 3 that have a higher accuracy if I wanted to kind of, do that.
Yeah, Liquid Siri has a really good question here, and I really want to know this as well. Are the user clicks on recommendation links training or tuning the model behind the scene?
Yeah, they are actually. That's right. So that's kind of like the beauty of Personalize is that like the more data that we're adding to it, which are all these events that we're doing, logging in with a user, creating products for this user, the user's browsing the site. That's all generating data that's going to be added to the model. That model can take like 24 hours to basically rebuild in essence. So like it might not be as real time as we want sometimes, depending on like what you choose within Personalize, if I remember correctly. And we can have a look at the Personalize side in a second. But like it is like getting answers back as to what's going to be most relevant as we're updating things for the user. So we go.
I was just going to say, putting it in a different like application context, thinking like if you had a chatbot and you're talking to the chatbot and it's giving you recommendations about, I'm looking for this product, and it gives you a couple of different options like technical, business, sales, whatever. And then most commonly people are choosing technical. Within 24 hours, the next time somebody comes back and asks that question, it's going to be technical at the top saying, here you go, this is the most asked question, technical. So that's the type of tuning that we're getting. Yeah, it's giving a better prediction or better analysis of what more people using are handing back as suggestions.
Yeah, that's right. And then it's like rebuilding that model, every 24 hours or so, if I remember correctly. Don't quote me on it. Like, so as I'm adding data, browsing pages like this, right? So you can see I've just been clicking the website in the background. So you can see all those events are coming in. Then I go back to the main page and, I've got these 6 recommendations with different accuracy versus, what I had beforehand, which was these 6. So credit card saver with 0.6 and credit card platinum 0.6. So you can see it's changed quite a lot just based on feeding it additional data about what this user's interested in, what support pages they're browsing, what product pages they're browsing, because that kind of adds to the prediction for this user because we're kind of growing the information for that user. And right now the real-time element is it's telling me based on the existing users already that existed within the system, right? Like what I would like. But, in 24 hours, like all the stuff that I've just done now is going to be part of that model that when the next user quizzes it, everything that I've done with this user is going to add to the accuracy of the next user that goes in, logs in, looks at products and this and that. Like this user is going to be part of that historical data set, the part of that model.
So what this might mean, like contextually, would be I've logged into my banking system. Today, I'm not interested in anything but looking at my loan. I've clicked on my loan a bunch of different times. I'm taking note. Like I've looked through, looking at my percentage rate, how much money is going in and out. I've clicked on it a bunch of times. Personalize has said, today it seems like from your interactions, you're really interested in your loan. So anything to do with help, we're not going to show you random things like, home insurance or something like that. That might have some relevance as well. But the high relevance is here's our mortgage fixed rates. Here's some information about the mortgage calculators. Here's the way to get to your loan activity statement. So, it's relevant even within 5 clicks, it starts to learn what you are interested in today to really personalize that experience.
Can you set, because looking at the accuracy, right? Can you set the question should be, where do you set what's returned in terms of the relevancy? So if I say I only want records that are 0.050 and above, so you would basically, for what you've got on your screen there, it'd drop off the last one, 0.49. Is that done on the API side, or can we change it based on interactions? So when we submit the query to the API, we can specify the threshold, or is it just in the configuration of the API?
So I think it's in the configuration of the API, if I remember right. So like one of the things is you can see all the debug information here, right, which gives it away. So there's more than 25 different options here, but you can see that the recommendations that are coming back from the JSON are 24 different options, right?
So it's for the campaign.
Yeah, for the campaign. But what I've done is I've chosen in the UI just to iterate through the first 5 items in the list, right? Yep.
Cool.
Yeah. Let's have a quick spin to the opposite direction, right? Like we've kind of had a look at a bit of the code, and I'll open that up and I'll put a link on the video later on today. But if we go back to the amazingly, well-designed website.
you may be a dev, but you're not a front-end dev.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So this amazingly designed website, you can see like what we were just looking at on the other screen. So when I was browsing, and you can see the top 6 actually quick links that I've put in here. But what I did want to go and do is actually jump into Personalize itself, right? So Personalize, I basically created this campaign. I called the campaign Personalize Flask Demo. Hopefully I've got the terminology right. What it does is when you create a campaign, it asks for you to upload a data set. And so what I did was I went create a data set already. And you can choose like whether it's a list of items or it's a list of users and items. And in here, you'd basically put in your schema definition. So, you would define the structure around the user information that you're putting in or the item information that you're putting in. And then once you've done that, you've got like a definition for the data set. You can then have real-time data interacted with, that kind of like structure that you've added, which is what the website's been doing. But you can also upload like some bulk data as a CSV, which is what I was doing in Faker. So that kind of like sets the first 10,000 records on like enough data to be able to make predictions. So one of the things of Personalize is I think it does need something like 5,000 records or so. Let me Google that so we can all be on the same page. So if I use a US spelling, let's go recommendations, initial data set. Hopefully this is going to be smart enough to tell me what I want, but I think it is like something like 5,000 records that you need. Let's just go documentation. And yes, I know I can access it through the AWS console, but I just thought of that now. So, like you'll create a campaign, it walks you through all of this. You can
1,000, Matt?
Yeah,
it's 1,000.
It is 1,000. So you can see that I tried to do 10,000. But once you've created that schema, you can import the bulk records. So you can just upload a CSV and basically start to populate, what you're going to make those predictions on, which is nice. And then once you've done that, like you've got a couple of options, right? There's different solutions that you can build. So you could have item recommendations, and you've got like different algorithms that you can kind of play around with in terms of like, do you want a personalized ranking of like the top 1 to the top 50th? Do you want like hot and cold items with hierarchical recurrent neural networks? Do you want a popularity count? So items based on the total number of events that have been fed in from that item. Do you want to just predict the items that the user is going to interact with? So, I'm just using the personalization. I think I'm using personalized ranking for this project here. But you've got a lot of different options to play around to see how the data comes back as well for your predictions. So you can see I've got personalized rankings here, and I've also got get recommendations. So I did experiment with both, and I think I ended up using get recommendations, get personalized ranking actually in the end. With that CSV data set, it basically built a model, it built a solution for that model. And then that's basically, then I've got this ARN, and I've got this like API endpoint that I basically quiz with any new data to make a prediction.
Can you expand the solution config back to that page where you're on, Matt?
So expand this here.
Just to the left, in the middle. Up a little bit.
Yep. This part. Yep. So you can see it's using machine learning under the hood. Like you've got hyperparameters, you've got feature transformers, like 149 dimensions in this network to come up with predictions. So you can see like what it is trying to do is it's trying to use a machine learning model on the data set you've got. One of the things that I think is actually fairly new, and I didn't actually get to experiment with, is like auto ML. So that's kind of similar to what we talked about with SageMaker kind of 2 weeks ago, actually. Like SageMaker can kind of try and work out what the best model is for you. So in Personalize, it can actually try and work out like based on the data that you've got, what's going to be the best solution out of all those ML models to kind of like, come back with what you want as well. So it's going to kind of like try and run a couple of models across it and see if it can use the full set of the data and see what the accuracy is of that. And so it's going to kind of do like automatic training there. I have not played around with it at all though. You can see that you get solution versions. So you can kind of like go back and use a particular model and version of the solution with the hyperparameter settings and all of that done there as well. And it's still coming back to me a little bit because it was such a long time ago that I did this. But you then have that campaign, which is what you are actually going to interact with Bodo Free. So that's what I'm making calls with. And I've got this user ID. I've got like item IDs that I'm feeding through. I can send extra context that I want. And so this campaign's kind of like that production element of like a quizable API at the end of the day.
Yeah, I pasted in the docs there, and so that's how you go and configuring the additional options you want over the top isn't something that you sort of click through the GUI and say, change this parameter, change that parameter. You define that as a schema, as a specification in JSON. You put that in, either you paste it in through the console or through your automated scripts, CDK, command line, whatever you need to do. And that's how you go ahead and start doing those additional machine learning tweaks that your data scientists are probably going to have a better idea than like us standard developers. Standard developers, we're going to get good results out of the box, but when you want to highly tune and optimize that, that's when somebody with a bit deeper machine learning experience is going to know which one of those options to tune and tweak.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Now, I know we're right on time. Is there any questions so far? Did anyone kind of enjoy the overview today? I will make sure to get that GitHub repo up. Paul and myself did work on this a little while ago, so we're kind of getting back on track with familiarizing like what we did. Was it September originally?
Yes,
but
might have been September, October, November, something like that. I mean, even November is 4 months ago.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so it feels like a lifetime ago, but it kind of got me excited looking through the project again today and going like, oh, this was actually really fun. Yep. Cool, and we've got thanks from Zemo, and congratulations as well to I think it was Liquid Syrup, was it? Like on the mug. Right. So hopefully you've messaged Paul already, but if not, message him on LinkedIn.
Yeah, they already have reached out and sent through their details, so we'll get a little swag pack out to them, and I guess we'll have to redesign some of our marketing material. We've got an extra face there, so. Yeah,
exactly. Paul's pulling my leg a bit because I am supposed to do some graphics design to help out.
Rebranding.
Yeah, but with the extra person, no more camels, no more scammers. Yeah. Hey, Egypt was awesome to go on holiday to. I absolutely loved it. The only bad thing was that camel event. But I definitely want to go back sometime. So thanks for joining everyone this week. Please feel free to subscribe to the YouTube if you want to watch more Devs in the Shed videos. We use that as an archive, and we occasionally do little streams there as well, and we're going to put trailers up for each week. From a weekly perspective, the show's reliably always on, this time every single week. Next week we are going to have Amplify Studio as well, so Aaron's actually going to run through that. And we're going to have a look at like something that he's created in Amplify Studio, and I'll probably get a little bit excited because if you watched last year, you probably saw that everything to do with Amplify is usually up my alley. And let me just see. There's one more question. Was there?
Yeah, that last question. So I've actually done a bit with Neptune DB. So creating a graph database, which is what Neptune DB is, creates relationships between data. So it's a very complex subject and probably not enough time right now to go into the details. But Personalize would definitely help with getting the recommendations out. Personalize itself probably uses something like Neptune DB or a graph under the hood to generate those recommendations. But if we were looking at a more complex scenario, then yes, you could look at what are the relationships between me and the product that I've used and what other people have done those products. Same thing, but one's more of an abstracted service, the Personalized service, on top of a graph database.
Yeah, that's probably what you'd see when you were like putting together those data sets. If you're manually building those models, you'd be sucking that information out of Neptune, and Neptune would provide that in a graph manner rather than having to do all this, work with BI tools to pull it all out in a relational manner. Thanks everybody, and just to sign off, welcome Aaron, and see you all next week.
See you next week.
Same time, same place. Catch you all. Bye.